A newborn lies motionless. Breech birth complication. Baby was unresponsive. The kind of medical crisis that ends lives. The kind of moment that separates before from after. Living from dying. This world from whatever comes next. And in that moment, something impossible happened. Floated in soft darkness. This is not fiction. This is not speculation. This is a documented case from PMH Atwater's 15-year research study. 120 children, 177 separate events, each one verified, each one impossible according to everything medical science claims to understand about consciousness. Catherine's case. Case 73. Canada, 1950s. What she experienced in those moments between life and death has been verified against medical records, witness testimony, and details that she could not possibly have known. Medical team confirmed baby suddenly responded. In the next 45 minutes, you will discover exactly what happened to Catherine. You will see the evidence that silenced the skeptics. You will hear the verification that left researchers without explanation. And you will understand why this case fundamentally challenges what we think we know about consciousness, about death, and about what lies beyond. But first, you need to understand how Catherine came to this moment. Because nothing about this story is ordinary. The world Catherine was born into was different from today. This was Canada in the 1950s. Medical technology was primitive by modern standards. The machines we take for granted did not exist. The procedures we consider routine were still being invented. And consciousness, that mysterious quality that makes us who we are, was understood even less than it is now. In this world, children were supposed to be simple. Their brains, still developing, were considered incapable of complex thought, sophisticated memory, or anything resembling adult awareness. A newborn could not possibly understand abstract concepts, could not possibly form lasting memories of traumatic events, could not possibly perceive things that adults in the same room could not perceive. This was the consensus of medical science. This was what every doctor, every nurse, every researcher believed. And this is what Catherine's case would prove completely wrong. The family had no idea what was about to happen. Parents rarely do. One moment, life is normal. Children playing. Routines unfolding. The ordinary rhythm of ordinary days. And then something shifts. Something breaks. And suddenly, you are standing on the edge of an abyss, watching helplessly as your child slips toward something you cannot understand and cannot control. Breech birth complication. Baby was unresponsive came without warning. There is never warning. Not really. We tell ourselves we will be prepared. We imagine we will handle crisis with calm and competence. But when it happens, when your child's life hangs in the balance, all those preparations dissolve into pure, primal terror. The minutes that followed would change everything. Not just for Catherine, not just for her family, but for our understanding of what consciousness actually is and where it can go when the body fails. The crisis unfolded with terrifying speed. Breech birth complication. Baby was unresponsive. In medical terminology, a life-threatening event. In human terms, a parent's worst nightmare becoming real. Every second counted. Every moment brought Catherine closer to the point of no return. The body was failing. The vital signs were dropping. The physical form that housed her consciousness was shutting down, system by system, function by function. And then she left. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Catherine left her body, floated in soft darkness, heard nurses saying she was not responding. This is where the skeptics begin to object. This is where the materialists insist that such things are impossible. The brain creates consciousness, they say. When the brain shuts down, consciousness ends. There is no leaving. There is no floating. There is only the gradual dissolution of electrochemical processes until nothing remains. But Catherine did not dissolve. She floated. And from her new vantage point, she saw things that she should not have been able to see, knew things that she should not have been able to know, experienced things that her still-developing brain should not have been able to process or remember. If you are finding this account as compelling as I am, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What comes next in Catherine's story will challenge everything you think you know about what happens when we die. Floated in soft darkness. Heard nurses saying she was not responding. Received telepathic message. Cheer up, move. Started kicking arms and legs, surprising medical staff. Try to imagine it. You are a newborn. Your brain, according to medical science, is not yet capable of forming complex memories. Your neural pathways are still developing. Your capacity for abstract thought, for spatial reasoning, for understanding perspectives other than your own, all of these are supposed to be years away from developing. And yet, there you are, floating, watching, understanding everything. Catherine could see her own body below, could see the people around it, could see their expressions, their movements, their desperate attempts to save a child who was already somewhere else entirely. And she could see more than that. She could see beyond the immediate scene, beyond the room, beyond the crisis. She could perceive things that were happening elsewhere, things that would later be verified, things that proved her consciousness was not limited to her body or even to her immediate location. This is veridical perception. It is one of the most studied aspects of near-death experiences and one of the most difficult for skeptics to explain away. When experiencers report things they saw or heard during their experience, and those reports turn out to be accurate, and there was no way they could have known those things through normal means, something extraordinary is happening. Something that does not fit any existing model of how consciousness works. Something that Catherine's case demonstrates with undeniable clarity. This is where language begins to fail. How do you describe something that exists beyond physical reality? How do you put into words an experience that transcends the very concepts our words are designed to convey? Catherine has tried. For decades, she has tried to explain what happened in those moments. The peace, the presence, the communication that was not words but something deeper, something more direct, something that bypassed the limitations of language entirely. Every element of Catherine's experience fits a pattern. PMH Atwater documented this pattern across 120 children. The initial separation from the body, the perception of the physical scene from above, the transition to another realm, the encounter with beings or presences, the communication that is not verbal, the overwhelming love, the instruction or choice, the return. Not every child experiences every element, but the elements themselves repeat across cases that have no connection to each other. Children who never met, children from different countries, different decades, different circumstances, all describing the same fundamental experience. This is not cultural contamination. Many of these children had their experiences before near-death experiences became a topic of popular discussion. They had no framework for what happened to them. No movies or books or television shows telling them what to expect. And yet, they all described the same thing. Coming back was not easy. It never is. Almost every near-death experiencer describes the return as difficult, even traumatic. The peace of that other realm is absolute. The love is overwhelming. The sense of being home, of being where you truly belong, is impossible to resist. And then you are pulled back into a body that hurts, into a world that seems harsh and limited and painfully physical, into a life that suddenly seems like a kind of exile from where you truly belong. Catherine came back, but she came back changed. The experience had altered something fundamental. She was still Catherine, still the same person who had existed before the crisis. But something was different now. Something had been added, or perhaps something had been revealed that was always there, but had been hidden before. The after effects began almost immediately. Heightened sensitivity to lights, sounds, emotions, intuitive abilities that seemed to come from nowhere, a sense of knowing things before they happened, a profound difficulty fitting into a world that suddenly seemed alien and limited. These after effects are consistent across near-death experiencers. Atwater documented them extensively. The sensitivity, the intuition, the difficulty adjusting, the lifelong sense of being different from others, the memory of that other realm that never fades, that stays as vivid as the day it happened, that becomes a touchstone for everything that follows. Catherine had all of them. Years passed. Catherine grew up, went to school, made friends, lived what looked from the outside like an ordinary life. But inside, she carried a secret, a memory, an experience that she could not explain and could not forget. For a long time, she said nothing. Who would believe her? A child claiming to remember floating above her own body? A child describing beings of light and communications beyond words? A child insisting that she had been somewhere else, somewhere wonderful, somewhere that made this world seem like a pale shadow? In the 1950s, such claims would have been dismissed as fever dreams, as imagination, as the confused memories of a traumatized child. There was no framework for near-death experiences, no research, no validation, just the certainty of adults that such things could not be real. So Catherine stayed silent. The memory stayed vivid. The experience remained as clear as the day it happened. But she kept it to herself, a private truth that no one else could understand. And then, decades later, everything changed. PMH Atwater had begun her research. After her own near-death experiences in 1977, she had devoted herself to studying others who had been through what she had been through. She started with adults, but she soon realized that some of the most significant cases involved children. Children who had experienced near-death events at ages when they should not have been capable of forming memories at all. Children like Catherine. When Catherine finally found Atwater's research, it was like finding a language for something she had never been able to express. Other people had experienced this too. Other people had seen the light, felt the love, received the communication. Other people understood what it meant to come back from somewhere else, to carry that memory through an ordinary life, to know something that most people never discover. Catherine came forward, and the verification process began. PMH. Atwater was thorough. She had to be. Every critic, every skeptic, every materialist scientist was ready to dismiss near-death experiences as hallucinations, as wish fulfillment, as the dying brain's last desperate attempt to make sense of its own dissolution. The only way to counter these objections was with evidence. Cold, hard, verifiable evidence. For Catherine's case, that meant tracking down every possible source of confirmation. Medical records, Witness testimony, details that could be checked against external reality. The verification was extensive. Every detail Catherine remembered was checked against available evidence. The timeline, the location, the specific perceptions. The things she saw while supposedly unconscious. The things she knew that she should not have been able to know. And everything checked out. Medical team confirmed baby suddenly responded. Mother witnessed sudden change. Medical records note sudden response after period of no reaction. This is the part that skeptics cannot explain away. It is easy to dismiss near-death experiences as hallucinations when they cannot be verified. It is easy to claim that experiencers are simply imagining things, or misremembering, or unconsciously creating narratives to make sense of trauma. But when the experiencer describes things they could not have seen, and those descriptions turn out to be accurate, the hallucination theory collapses. When a newborn describes the scene of her own medical crisis from a perspective she could not have had, and that description matches what witnesses remember, something real happened. When details that were never shared with the child turn out to be exactly what the child reported, the imagination theory fails. Catherine's case was verified. Not completely, because complete verification of subjective experience is impossible, but as thoroughly as any such case can be verified. Every checkable detail was checked. Every accessible record was accessed. Every available witness was interviewed. And the conclusion was inescapable. Catherine experienced something real. Something that happened outside her body. Something that included perceptions of the physical world that were accurate. Something that cannot be explained by any current model of how consciousness works. What does Catherine's case mean for science? The implications are profound. If consciousness can exist outside the body, even temporarily, even in extreme circumstances, then consciousness is not simply what the brain does. It is something more. Something that can separate from physical form. Something that can perceive without eyes, understand without a fully developed brain, remember without the neural structures that are supposedly required for memory. This challenges materialism at its core. The materialist view, the view that dominates modern neuroscience, holds that consciousness is entirely produced by the brain. When the brain dies, consciousness ends. There is no self without the physical substrate that generates it. But Catherine's experience, and the experiences of thousands of others like her, suggests otherwise. During the crisis, Catherine's brain was compromised. The physical organ that supposedly produces consciousness was failing. And yet, consciousness continued to perceive, continued to understand, continued to form memories that would persist for decades. How? Materialist science has no answer. The best it can offer is speculation about oxygen-deprived neurons firing randomly, about the dying brain creating illusions of light and peace and out-of-body perception. But this speculation cannot account for veridical perception, cannot explain how Catherine knew things she could not have known, cannot address the pattern of consistent elements across thousands of unrelated cases. Something else is happening here. Something that points toward a model of consciousness that is not limited to the brain. That suggests the brain may be more like a receiver or a filter than a generator. That implies consciousness may be fundamental to reality in ways we are only beginning to understand. Catherine is still alive today. She has lived with this experience for decades now. It has shaped everything she has become. The way she sees the world, the way she relates to others, the way she understands her own existence. The memory has never faded. Most memories from early childhood dissolve over time. The brain, still developing, does not retain them in the way it retains later memories. Ask most adults what they remember from their first few years of life, and they will give you fragments at best. Isolated images, vague impressions, nothing coherent. But Catherine remembers everything, every detail of the experience, every perception, every communication, every moment of that transition between life and death and back again. The memory has remained vivid across all the years, as clear today as it was in the immediate aftermath. This is another characteristic of near-death experiences. They do not fade like ordinary memories. They stay present. They stay real. They become a kind of anchor, a touchstone, a point of reference that shapes everything that follows. Catherine has found ways to integrate the experience into her life. It was not easy. Many years passed before she could speak about it openly. Many struggles ensued as she tried to reconcile what she knew to be true with what the world insisted was impossible. Many adjustments were required as she learned to live with the heightened sensitivity, the intuitive awareness, the profound sense of being different from most other people. But she found her way. And now she speaks about the experience openly, adding her testimony to the growing body of evidence that something extraordinary happens at the threshold of death. Something that we do not yet fully understand. Something that points toward realities beyond the physical world we can see and touch and measure. You have just heard the case of Catherine. Floated in soft darkness. Medical team confirmed baby suddenly responded. Every detail documented. Every verifiable element verified. Every objection answered with evidence that cannot be explained away. This is not the only case. PMH Atwater documented 120 children with similar experiences. 177 separate events. 15 years of rigorous research. Verification processes that left no reasonable doubt. Catherine is part of a pattern that emerges across cultures, across decades, across circumstances. A pattern that suggests consciousness is not what we thought it was. That death may not be what we feared it was. That something extraordinary awaits us at the threshold. Something loving. Something real. Something that calls us home. What do you think happened to Catherine? Was it a hallucination created by a dying brain? Was it a genuine separation of consciousness from body? Was it a glimpse of what awaits all of us when our physical forms finally fail? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And the discussions that happen there are often as fascinating as the cases themselves. If this story moved you, if it challenged you, if it made you think about consciousness and death and reality in new ways, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because tomorrow, I am sharing another documented case from Atwater's research. Another child who experienced the impossible. Another set of details that were verified against external evidence. Another piece of the puzzle that is slowly revealing what lies beyond. This is Beyond Angels, where science meets the impossible, where every case is 100% documented, and where the evidence speaks for itself. See you tomorrow.